important stretch in our season. I'm not going to say it's going to define our season, but it's definitely going to shake things out when we get on the other side of this and get back home in 6 weeks on where we're at in the race and what we're playing for.
To differ, this could very well define their season over the course of the next 2 weeks, going up against the two best teams to say where they really are. How tough is the road ahead for Rodgers and the Packers now?
Not only the road for them during the regular season is going to be very tough, but this is the story of Aaron Rodgers since, Greg, you guys won the Super Bowl. They haven't been able to get what I think is a huge advantage in making everybody in the NFC come to Lambeau. Man, you think the Rams, we look at our schedule when I play Green Bay, and I played them every year twice for 12 straight years. I look at that schedule, when is Green Bay? Don't want to play them, and the games become more important because we don't want them to have any type of home field advantage as far as going there. So it becomes difficult. They're not going to have the #1 seed. They're not going to have the #2 seed. So what they're going through right now, they're going to have to do it twice. They're going to have to grind it out in the regular season to try to get the 9-7, 10-6, and then in the playoffs, man, at best they got one game at home, and they are going on the road twice. And Aaron Rodgers, he has the toughest road of all the quarterbacks because of the lack of support. Like, this team can't win 12 games, so they're not competing for home field advantage. And when you don't have home field advantage and you are the Green Bay Packers, you lose a lot of the mystique. You lose a lot of the home field advantage, what the regular season is meant for. And no one wants to go to Green Bay. So with them not being able to compete for that, I just believe it's too hard. There's too many good quarterbacks to have to win 2 road games, and that's what their schedule sets them up for, Greg, coming down the finish.
Yeah, when you look at you can add in the Seattle Seahawks right afterwards, because when you look at playing teams, you look at who's that quarterback, and when you face a Russell Wilson, you're going to be challenged as well. But when I look at the Green Bay Packers, every team that they play are looking at them the same way. Like, this is a team that's coming in that can beat us. So it's not just the Packers need to win. It's the Rams looking at the Packers like, this is...
Yeah, they're not going to sneak up on
No, they're not going to sneak up on anybody as well, because you understand who's coming into your home. You got Aaron Rodgers. And you got Aaron Rodgers with a knee brace that is still playing at a high level. And he may get Randall Cobb and Geronimo Allison back. So you add those two pieces. I like where the Green Bay Packers are. To your point, though, as far as playing for home field advantage, it's something that they have tried to do and have failed year after year after year. And it's becoming an Achilles heel, because when you have to continue to go on the road, we saw them AFC Championship game against the Seattle Seahawks. They dropped that. Every time you have to continue to do that in the playoffs, it wears on you because you don't have your crowd, your support, your backyard.
And before I talk about the Packers stretch, I want to ask you a question. What is it like playing in Green Bay in December and January?
#1, it's cold.
Well, right, but how much of an impact? But I guess my point is, at least you were almost conditioned for it because you played there for the bulk of your career. For guys that had to come there, could you see it on their faces? What the elements were doing to them when you would play a New Orleans team in Green Bay late in the year, or a team that is not used to those conditions late in the year? What type of advantage did it give you guys?
It changes everything. Your offensive approach, you talk about New Orleans Saints, you talk about any team, and it's become a passing league. And so when you go to Green Bay in late November, December, early January, you have to be able to run the football. And so you become a one-dimensional team. The Green Bay Packers, what they have learned to do, Mike McCarthy has done a fantastic job. He has those guys outside as much as he possibly can.
Yes.
Scrapes that field off, and they're out there. They understand this is our advantage. This is how we make our hay.
And one thing as a wide receiver, Greg, we learn how to run routes. And so we know where we're going. There's huge advantage to guys who can run after the catch. So you have a guy with Aaron Rodgers who can defy the wind, can flight the ball to give you an opportunity. So when you forfeit all these, man, Green Bay is just as cold, but they know how to play in the cold better than other teams. So that's what I see. When you have a mediocre regular season, you just forfeit all that advantage that the Green Bay Packers should have year in and year out.
What does this next stretch, this next month look like for the
So
Packers?
I mean, we're focused on the Rams and Patriots part. I'm glad you asked me that, Jenna. They're at the Rams, at the Pats, home for Miami, then at Seattle, and after that, at Minnesota.
And this season could be over.
Right.
Right.
So that is.
So that's why I said it is a bigger deal.
If you remember Aaron Rodgers, after the game against the Niners on the field, he said it. He said after he pulled one out of the fire there that he shouldn't have had to pull out of the fire, he said, we got the bye, and then we've got a really tough next month coming up. But here's the thing about Green Bay. This past year in the draft, they did something that it was savvy, but also hurt them for this year. They traded back with New Orleans. New Orleans, we thought, was trading up to get a quarterback. They ended up drafting the pass rusher. Because of that, they have 2 first-round picks next year. Now, what they sacrificed by doing that is the ability to draft Derwin James. They end up drafting the pick after Derwin James, who might be an all-pro as a rookie, safety. Instead, they draft Jair Alexander, the corner, who I think is a good player, but Derwin James has been phenomenal.
Absolutely.
Last segment, what were we talking about? What contender could use Patrick Peterson?
Yes.
I mean, how about a team that's got the best player in the league, that has 2 first-round picks next year, the only team other than Oakland to have multiple first-round picks next year? How about the Green Bay Packers getting the Patrick Peterson sweeps?
Jenna asked me about them this morning, and I was like, Jenna, it's a great question. Like, why don't we talk about some of these players when they're trying? Why isn't L. Bell? They could use a running back. I was like, it's a hell of a question. They just don't participate in free agency and trades the way other teams do. So, yeah, also, the reason why I think L. Bell is a more legitimate trade for the Packers than Patrick Peterson, because they could use a running back long-term who can catch the ball out of the backfield, given Aaron Rodgers. And because, Jenna, to answer your question, Patrick Peterson, they spent a lot of draft capital
on corners.
On corners. Right. That's the reason why they wouldn't go after someone like Patrick Peterson.
I was just about
at
to
this
say
point.
that. But to add to that, when you look at the Green Bay Packers as a free agent or as a trade possibility, and you have some say, if you have some say, no one cares about all of that.
Jenna,
You're talking
it's story for us.
Yes.
Because we're in the history. We're a little bit older.
because
This
we're
younger
indoors.
generation.
They're not thinking about what happened before them. Oh, this is a story franchise. This is a great opportunity. No, they're thinking about it's going to be cold in December. It's going to be cold in January. Oh, and then what am I doing when I leave the facility?
Well, that's
What is-
right.
what do I have-
I mean, listen,
what is there
I
going
can
on?
list 75
right,
cities
well-
that you would rather be young, rich, and single in than Green Bay, Wisconsin. Not even to get into the demographics of it. Like, it's just not an appealing place. It's not Salt Lake City in the NBA, but it's close. And at least in Salt Lake, they play inside.
Well,
You gotta play
Patrick
outside.
Peterson is leaving Arizona, the warm, sunny
Well, he
confines
wants
of
to.
Arizona. Well, right,
To
and
win.
to win. Right, so that's why maybe if Green Bay could put a few W's together, it could be a little bit more appealing. Greg, thanks so much for joining us. Got to take a break. Coming up, the Rondo-Chris Paul beef escalates. That's next on First Things First.
Jenna, they have a lot of gyms in Green Bay. The kale.
So I could play?
A lot of fried cheese, too, though.
Look here.
Moment on the
Bone
list.